So the first question that I always like to start off asking comedians, because I find the answer to be so interesting and so different for each person, is first of all, introduce yourself. Like, what are you
Okay.
about? Where can we find you? And then tell us how you got started in comedy.
Nice. I'm Drew Harrison. Originally from North Carolina. I grew up in a place called Southern Pines, like Pine Bluff, Pinehurst. We called it the Pines because it's like six different little towns that was kind of like this community.
Yeah.
And they all had pines in the name. So we just went with it. But definitely no comedy there. So I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, and started doing comedy. I did a little bit when I was in Southern Pines. I met some like Raleigh and Greenville comics, and there was this fantastic room at the time in Greenville, North Carolina, at this place called the Tipsy Teapot, and it really taught me how comedy worked and how comedy shows were put on and produced and ran. Because the first time I ever did stand up, I it was like a word vomit of like what I'd written. So I
Right.
actually it's on YouTube, and I battle with it every few years on if I'm going to take it down or not. But my first time ever doing stand up is on YouTube, and I did 22 minutes.
Why?
Exactly. Like it's not good. You know what I
Like, the
mean? Like I
longer you
didn't
do
use
it, the
any
more
of
you
it.
realize how horrifying that is.
Right. And I love seeing other comics face when I was like, I did 22 minutes out the gates. And they're like, you're an idiot. And I was like, I know. But like I was just always a comedy fan. And I just really challenged myself. I was at kind of like a point in my life. I was 25. I didn't really know what in the world I wanted to do with my life. I was really at
Yeah.
a crossroads where I was working a job I hated, but it was paying the bills. So I was like, I can just keep doing this. You know what I mean? I can just, be, like everybody else in the small town and just get a job and just that's my life. And I just really the only this is gonna sound terrible, but it's the truth. But the only excitement I got at the time was watching stand up comedy. Like I would have people over at my house,
Yeah.
and I would be the annoying guy. But like, have you seen so and so's new special? You got to watch it. Do you have an hour? And they'd be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Come on over. We're pop some popcorn. It'll be great.
Yeah, and they just didn't get on board. But I just kept watching and studying and digging up comics and listening to albums. I worked a overnight job, and as long as you were tentative to what was going on your computer screen, you could do whatever. So I would just pop comedy albums in and just listen to them for hours and hours and hours, and I just loved it. I started writing my own jokes, seeing if I could do punchlines, and I was hanging out at a local brewery back home, Rail House Brewery, and me and my roommate were just hanging out on like a Wednesday night and talking about, he was asking me like how the writing was going and what I'd planned on doing. And I was like, to be honest with you, man, I don't know. Like the only thing
Yeah.
I know from comedy is specials where a big announcer says, welcome to the stage. And then somebody
Right.
walks out, they tell their jokes, and then the crowd, and that's it. Like I was like, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, let alone know of a place to do it.
Right.
And I guess the owner was bartending that night, and he heard me. He's like, "Well, do it here." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, just do it here." So like a lot of people showed up. Like I made like a Facebook event for it. Like my first time, I promoted it like it was a show, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And my roommate was a DJ, so he had the microphone and speakers and all that good stuff. So he just walked out and said, Drew Harrison. And I walked out and just did whatever I'd written for the last 6 months. And just
How'd it
I
go?
kept wanting more. Like I definitely got, the benefit, the home field advantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people were very kind.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I have only watched it once. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to, like once was enough for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna go back and watch it. I never used any of those jokes again. I'll tell you that. Like it was nice to get them out,
Yeah.
like get all that out of the way. Because then I started my second time on stage, I got banned from Good Nights Comedy Club in Raleigh. They had some old managers that were not very nice, and they used to make you audition for their open mic. So you used to have
Wow.
to you used to have to go into a room with a hot mic, the performance room that's still there today, with a hot mic and one person watching you, and you had to do a minute of material.
And
And so
did you say you got banned?
I got banned. So I go in to sign up. Um, again, have no idea how the comedy business works, how any of this is supposed to go. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. And I go up and Kirby was the booker's name. Um, and I hope he's not still alive because he sucks. But you go up and you talking, he's like, go up, do a minute, and we'll see what you got. And he, as I'm walking up stage, he's like, and no poop jokes. I was like, okay, whatever. So I go up and
I feel like it's a
freeze.
little late to be telling comedians that as they're
Right.
walking up on
And
stage.
why poop jokes? Like of all, like
Right,
now
like
that I
everybody
know
has
open
poop
mics,
jokes.
now that I've watched so many open mics over the years, poop jokes is what you're worried about. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So for like, of course, never been on stage, like an actual stage before, let alone in front of someone who I don't know if he can make or break my career. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You have no
Because
idea
they're
what kind of clout this guy has.
exactly, and I don't even have a career right now. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
know what the next step is. So I go up and I freeze, completely freeze. Forgot everything I'd planned on doing. Nothing was coming to mind. But in my mind, I was like, "You got a minute, dude? Say something." Well, guess who just wrote a brand new poop joke that day? This guy.
This guy.
That's the only thing that came to mind because the idiot said no poop joke. So of course my mind's like, tell a poop joke.
I can't believe it was just a minute.
I got 10 seconds into it and he stopped me. He's like, no. What'd I tell you? And I was
Like, we
like,
don't do that here.
I knew you were gonna be mad. So he pulled me off stage, and apparently I found out like years later that that was his shtick. Like I could have told the best joke he's ever heard, and he still would have pulled that. Like that was just his thing to mess with
Like
new
he just did
comics.
that to newbies.
Yeah,
Wow, he
to
does
kind
suck.
of see if you
Right.
wanted to stick around or not. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
came from that old school show tough love, see if they want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Earn
mean?
it.
Like
You gotta earn it.
I hate that crap. Um, so he gets out. My buddy was with me at the time, and I mean he doesn't know. You know, he can be an argumentative guy sometimes. So he starts be like, you said you'd give him a minute. So they get into it. The guy's like, get out of my showroom. So we're walking out, and we get out to the door, and my buddy and him are still arguing, but he kind of tones him out. And he's like, all right, man, this is his stick to, he'd be like, all right, man, come on. Let you sign up for 2 weeks from now. So come on back in. And I wrote down my name and number. And by the time I get back outside, I guess the manager heard us, like the owner slash manager. So he's out now outside arguing with my buddy. So I'm looking at my buddy like, shut
Why
up,
was he
man.
arguing with him? Like he didn't want you back?
It just kept escalating. You know what I mean? Like he heard us yelling. My buddy wasn't going to drop it. My buddy didn't know things were good. You know what I mean? He didn't know that I was signed up. Like it's over.
You're like, you're trying to be a bro right now, but you're making it worse.
He's trying to defend my honor. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like I'm behind him, like walking out, and I see what's going on. I'm like, shh, no. And I get to him, and I'm like pushing him to the car, and he says one last thing, and the manager goes, all right, you're both banned. He's like, I got your name and number. Don't ever show your face here again. And I was like, well, there it goes. Like that was the biggest club in the state that I'm in. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, there goes my career. I'm done. Before it
Wow.
even got started,
And
I'm
that
not
was
going to
your
be
second time doing stand up?
second time ever. And it was, I was just like, well, what do I do now? Like I don't know where to go from here. Like I've never been banned. Like does that, and my brand new brain, I was like, does that mean I'm banned like in the city or like just that place?
Like
Like
like how do you mean banned? Like banned from like the whole, like I can't come back anywhere?
did he just ban me from comedy? Like
Like what
I don't
happens
know
if
how
I
this
do show
works.
up? Do I go to jail?
Like that was my thing. I was like, is he gonna have like a picture of us at the front door? Like, how far is this gonna go? So I just went home and I was a little defeated. And I got on the internet and I just kind of just broad searched places to do comedy in North Carolina. And I found it happened, just so happened that there was a contest in Wilmington, North Carolina,
Wow.
Port City's top comic. And you were
And what year
guaranteed
was this? What year would this have been?
2012. So I
Oh, so
started,
that wasn't very long ago.
so
Oh
I
shit.
started,
No, that was 10 years ago.
yeah, yeah,
Whoops.
time. Uh, And so I started December 2011. So this is now like March 2012. And I don't know any, like, when there's nothing to do in town, months go in between when you get on stage. You know what I mean? Like I went to a Mellow
Oh yeah.
Mushroom, but it was a music mic and I felt super awkward. So I ended up bailing at the last minute. Like,
Dude, but I love Mellow Mushroom. I hope you at least got something to eat while you were there.
oh yeah, but the pizza, they put potatoes on pizza. I'm there. You know what I mean? Like two of my favorite things. Uh, and so I found the contest. I was easy to sign up. I go down to Wilmington not knowing anybody. And it's in this big theater in downtown Wilmington, and it's all the locals and me. And like everyone knows everybody and everyone's chatting it up. And I just go in like, I don't know what I'm doing. What's up? How you doing? Good to see you. But the thing is, I signed up in March. The contest was in June. And I had nothing to do.
What?
So I sat down and got this 5 minutes. I was like, I'm going to do something. Like I started reading up on like how to start out in comedy and things like that. And luckily there was a comic that came to my first show from my hometown. He had moved on to like Greensboro and like bigger cities, but he was just like, he told me a little bit. He's like, just get a couple minutes down, man. Don't worry about all of this. Just a couple minutes to start with. So I just really, I found the rules of the contest. I was like, you get 5 minutes. I was like, all right, I'm going to make this for the next few months. I'm going to do nothing but work on this 5 minutes. And so like I would rehearse in front of my friends. Like I would have people over to the house and just tell them this 5 minutes, and they'd be like, it's better than last week. Like you did this, you tweaked that. And I really built what I thought at the time was a strong 5 minutes. And so I get up there and we draw numbers, and I'm like 7th or something like that. And it's like, I think it's like 12 comics in the first round. There's
wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
two first rounds. So 12 and 12, like each night. And then 6 moved on, or from each night, or 5 from each night moved on. And so I go up and I do the best 5 minutes. And I had brought some friends with me, and they did a super great job of being supportive and cheering me on from the crowd. And I felt good. I felt confident. I look back. That is one that I've watched a few times, and it's cringeworthy. Like
oh yeah,
what did you do with your hands early on, and what you think's funny, and the facial expressions you make, and
and how nervous you sound.
The pitch of your voice. You're like, what was I doing? So somehow I'm the last name called to advance. So I go down to this contest, don't know anybody, advance to the finals. And you've been there. You've been to the festival or the new place in town. No one talks to you at first. You go do a set. It's okay. Now everyone's going to talk to you.
Yeah, now you're good to speak to. You're all right.
Right. Like I'm not saying it's wrong. I've done the same exact thing.
Oh yeah.
Place, but
they don't know if you're crazy. Because like with comedians, you don't know who's crazy. There have been so many times I've tried to make like the loner in the room feel welcome, and they've been literally insane.
Regretted it.
And then they like stalk you on the internet and all sorts of stuff.
You're best friends now. You know what I mean? You're like, I made a poor choice.
Exactly. Or like, oh, she was flirting with me. Like, oh,
I can imagine that. That sucks so bad. I can't even imagine that layer to it. Like, hello, boys, please don't hit on me. All right. But yeah, they started talking to me. I built up that rapport with them. And then I went back the next weekend for the finals. And I didn't know that in contests, like I've definitely learned this now, more than likely, if you have a good first round, you're going to do that same set the next round. Right. So all the comics are doing these sets. I thought it was like an unwritten rule.
Oh no.
Gotta have a brand new 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm still nowhere. I was like, dude, it worked. Just, okay, do it. Something completely different, untested, never done before. And I didn't have those months. You know what I mean? I didn't have those tester months to refine
like
it.
Nobody thought to tell you. Like
nobody was like, hey man, just do that again. It was like, so I did a brand new 5 minutes, and it turned out to be a good story. And I ended up whittling, like over the years, I whittled it to being my first closer. Like I wouldn't even think about using it now because it's still on the cringeworthy level of I don't want to be that comic anymore.
But being like overnight.
Right. At the time, being brand new, I was like, that's a pretty good closer,
That's not bad.
Yeah. Like, okay, cool. Like I get a lot of, but it works. Okay. So I did that. And I mean, that gained me so much respect with the local comics. They're like, this dude came down and did a whole different 5. Like kudos. I wouldn't have done it, but kudos to you. You know like, that I got that. You're crazy, bro. I like you, but you're crazy.
Yeah, you are the crazy one they met. The crazy.
Right. but in a good way, like we'll still talk to you crazy way. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like you're not banned on Facebook because I think Facebook was it at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was still in Southern Pines, and I at that whole weekend, those 2 weekends back to back, I fell in love with Wilmington. I was like, I've got to get down here. These comics have accepted me already. Like I've got to come see what I can become around comics all the time, because I was like, my friends are great, but they're not writing partners. You know what I mean? They're not. I can bounce ideas off of them, but they don't know structures of jokes and how things work and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like I've just got to submerge myself. This is what I want to do. Like this is the only thing I've been excited about in a long time. If this is what I want to do, I've got to do it. So I saved up as much money as I could. I moved to Wilmington, um, and just really, it was Nut Street Comedy. And it's just, you were down there every Thursday and you were down there every Friday and Saturday watching the headliner, learning, and they're really great. They really grow the young comics. They really develop them. And I'm
So
forever
is there
grateful
a pretty
to
big
Wilmington.
scene there?
Not really, like it's like for I'd say out of the big cities in North Carolina, it's probably the third or fourth biggest scene, maybe, just because the big, like Charlotte's getting there, and Raleigh's huge. Raleigh's the biggest scene, and Greensboro's got a nice little tight, nice scene, and then you got Wilmington, and we're just so isolated on the coast. You know what I mean? We kind of had to fend for ourselves. We created our own shows and produced our own shows, so we didn't have to, because you travel 2 hours from Wilmington, you're still in the middle of nowhere in North
Right.
Carolina. So
Right.
we really just built up that scene from 2013 to 2016, and uh, that contest, that Port City's Top Comic contest, was always the measuring stick. Like you have a good year and you build on it. Well, what'd you place in the contest? That's how. So I
As like
made
the
it to the,
litmus test.
exactly, like where am I at with my comedy? How is the audience with where I'm
Interesting.
at?
Do they still have that contest every year?
Yeah, they do. And it's great. It's kind of like you get your jacket, you know what I mean? Like part of
Yeah.
what is the golf
Earn your
tournament? The
stripes.
Masters, you get the green jacket, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're in the group. And so I made it to the finals in 2012, and then did not advance past the first round in 13, 14, and 15.
Oh no.
So I was like, this is the whole reason I moved down here. Like,
Right.
what am I doing? What can I do? And then so I moved down there with my girlfriend at the time, and we ended up getting married. And
Nice.
in 2016 we split up, and like having probably one of the worst years of my life,
Oh no.
personally. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
uh, and I went into the contest in 2016 feeling the best comedy wise I'd felt in forever. Like I was
Because
coming
your
off
life
of a
was the worst it had ever been.
right, and the writing was so good because
That's
we
a
have
real thing.
right, and like I just and it was clicking. Things were clicking, and we have a festival every year too, in like May. Like so, a month or two before the contest, we have a festival, and all comics from all over the country come down, and you really can see how you stack with like New York and LA and Chicago. And I did really well in the festival. Like I was coming off the festival, I had some momentum, I was feeling good, I was getting some weekends at the club, they were trusting me more. And then I went into that contest. I finally get past the first round in 3 years. I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Finals. I'm back. And we go and do the finals. And the comic before me, a good buddy of mine, Troy Coleman, he's an Atlanta comic now. But he's got this bit about telling girls that he loves them too soon. And so I played off of that, and I was the first comic that really played off of the previous comic. That was one of the first things I learned in Greenville when I was doing those shows at Tipsy Teapot. There's a comic out there named Eric Schaus, and he always got the audience over immediately because he commented on what was said before, to be like, I'm listening, you're listening, let's bond,
Yeah.
like it.
That's a
And
smart
so
move.
I played off of that, and from then on they were right here, and it was almost like it was really the first time where you hear about comics talk about where you were like out of your own mind thinking about the next step, like you're telling your jokes but you're still having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, you're not like living in the moment. You're like in your own head, even though you know the moment is happening.
Yeah,
Oh
that was
yeah,
the first
been
time I
there.
really felt that. You know what I mean? So I was like having this natural high in the middle of my set and just being like, calm down, just finish strong. You know this is going well. Just don't mess it up. So like I'm like it's almost like I was watching myself, and I ended up winning that contest that year, and that just opened every door it possibly could in North Carolina. And I just from 2016 to 2019, I just had a blast doing all the shows in North Carolina, featuring it at the comedy club. That Nut Street turned into Dead Crow because they got a new location and grand opening, and it was just so great. And I had a blast. But then I was like, all right, what's next? You know,
Yeah.
like you've done what you really can in North Carolina. You can keep doing this. Like this is great. You know what I mean? Like this, you're on a great track. But if you want to, take that next step, you want to get on the road more, you want to travel. Wilmington's not the place for travel. Like
Right.
because like I said, you can't get anywhere. So
You've
like I
like
need to be
kind of like goldfish, how they can eventually outgrow their bowl, you know?
exactly. You know what I mean? And I love that community and I love them so much. But I wanted to be around some, some people that wanted to shoot some sketches or do this and put on these shows and stuff like that. Because me and my buddy Matt Milner in Wilmington, we started a bunch of shows, and it just got to the point where we were the producers. You know what I mean? We weren't really the comics anymore. So I really, it's been nice coming to Nashville and getting back to my comedy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I felt like I was always planning this show and booking this lineup and making this poster and making this
Yes.
graphic. And that's fine. And it was a great stage where I learned a lot about the business side of things. But I needed to get back to writing jokes
Man,
and
I
doing what
relate
worked
to
for
that
me.
so hard. I relate to
Yeah,
that so hard. You spend so much time trying to create comedy opportunities that need to be created that you're no longer included in those opportunities.
exactly.
And like people literally are surprised to find out you do stand up yourself. They're like, "Oh, you do comedy?" Like, "Oh, I
Oh, I
didn't know
thought you were
that."
a producer. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I got to
I've
get
gotten
back
that
on
a lot
stage.
since I've been here. I've gotten
Yeah.
that a
So, I
ton. So
mean,
people,
you've worn that hat. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You,
people
you,
are
you
like,
are currently wearing that hat. You know what I mean?
yeah, they're like, "So, do you do comedy?" And I'm like, "For 13 years." Like,
Like, would I be
yes.
doing this? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
Like, I think those hats off to those people because we need them. But
Yes.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
you're an insane person on a whole nother level. You're booking comedy and it's not for your benefit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting because it's like I love comedy and I love performing and I love being on stage, but also I love producing and I love putting things together and seeing them happen. So you have to like balance it. You have to
oh,
balance
no
it. But
doubt.
you're
And
right. Like it is so easy to wake up 6 months later and realize you haven't been doing a set, even though you've been at comedy shows
exactly.
every night, you haven't done a set in months because you've been crafting everything else and like building it and bringing it to life and creating opportunities that are not your
Exactly.
opportunities because you have to be in charge.
Exactly. And it was nice to hit the refresh button and get back on stage. And I, it, we moved to Nashville in September of 2019. And so like
Okay.
that fuck right. We all know what's coming next.
Oh no. So you got a good like 4 or 5 months of comedy in.
Built up a little bit of steam. You know what I mean? Like was very fortunate early on and got some rubs from some key people and got on Zanies a couple of times and just
Nice. That's hard to
really
do. That's
had a
nice.
great couple of months. And then I was actually at Comedy Bar the night that they pulled all the basketball players off the court. So like we were doing a showcase and we're watching in the bar next door before the showcase starts. Like, oh no.
Yeah, like what's
Like they
going
never
on?
cancel basketball. What is this?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking this was going to be like SARS level. You know what I mean? Like we hear about it in Toronto, but it never really messes with
Or
us.
like the swine flu.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like two weeks tops. You know what I mean? And then 2020 happened. And like it's just been nice to get back out there with some confidence, get the vaccine and just feel good about getting back out there and
Yeah, I
hitting
bet.
the stage again. Cause I had a really tough time writing during like I'm one of those people that I have to be like living life to write. You know what I mean? Like I can't just sit down and stare at a piece of paper and come up with a joke. Like I have to be walking to a restaurant and see something funny and be like, oh, let me put that in my phone to write down later. Like I'm a spur of the moment. Oh, this joke came to me. Nice. I'm not all right, let's see what I can come up with today. So the COVID was really took a real my joke writing took a hit during that for sure. So it's been nice to get back out and just really, get to writing again. Like it's so
Yeah.
crazy going to that one mic and then you're like, I got 3 new jokes that I thought of tonight. Like this is great.
Yeah. 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 And then I just think it's interesting that you basically were like, I want to be a comedian. And your first exposure to stand up comedy is producing, directing, starring in your own lineup, having never done it before, having never booked a show before. Your second experience is getting banned from the biggest
Yeah.
comedy club you'd ever performed in 10 seconds after you started performing. And then your third experience is like this contest. That's just insane. That's
Yeah.
like you
Small town
did
comedy right there, you
right,
know.
like you did about 15 years worth of comedy in your
Right.
first degree
Right.
experience.
And that's why
Um,
I was happy. Like I definitely was very fortunate and met the right people that I've got a lot of opportunities early on. And I don't
right.
take that for granted at all. Like I
Well, and
definitely
also though, also you should give yourself credit because one of the things I've noticed about your story is you're like, I went and I watched and I took notes and I watched and I took notes. And a lot of beginning comics will not do that. I tell people all the time, you know, I teach classes at Second City, and the people who come in on the first day of class and are like, I don't know, I'm really nervous, I don't think I'm good at this, yada yada yada, they end up crushing the end of term show, just nailing it because they
I
attend, they
studied.
write, they
Yeah.
work, they go to mics, they want to learn. And the people who come in day one and are cocky and arrogant and think they're already so funny never come back.
Yeah.
I have at least two students every term who quit after the first day when they're not told how amazing they are immediately, when I actually have like notes and critique for them and they were expecting me to just tell them to teach the class because they're so good.
Which is
They
great
they
because you
never
got to
come.
weed out those thin skinned people quick
Yes, they
because
never
comedy is
come
going to
back.
beat them up.
Yep. Um, so I think where, yes, you were like lucky in the people that you met and the connections that you made, I think also you owe yourself a lot of
Yeah.
credit in one, you didn't give up, right? A lot of people would have been like, day one, oh, I have to set this up myself. No, thanks.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
did it. Day two, they would have been like, I'm banned from that club. Comedy's stupid anyway. Like, I'm better than that. And they never would have done it again. But you like took it and you kept going and you kept learning and kept growing, which I think is you had all these bumps that would have canceled out a lot of people.
Yeah.
And instead you used it for like drive. So I think that's really, really cool.
The best thing that you can do to me is tell me I can't do something. You know,
Me
I've
too.
got just enough of the anti-authority.
Me
Like,
too.
I can't do that. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Like, even if I really didn't want to do it at all, if somebody says I
exactly,
can't, then I'm like,
exactly. Like, what'd you say? What's
like,
up?
well, now
What's
I
up?
have to. Now I have to.
Yeah, like I
Like,
kind of get mad. Like, well, now I guess I'm doing this.
it's like this bit. Yeah. Yep.
I hate it, man.
Um, in what's the most positive impact comedy has had on your life, and what's the most negative impact comedy, if you had to be like brutally honest?
I definitely would say positive wise, it's like I was the quiet kid. You know what I mean? Like growing up, like I didn't talk. Like me and one of my best friends to this day, Matt Simon, we grew up together in high school, and we both played freshman baseball. And he would make me say 10 words a day because I just wouldn't talk. I'd always listen, and I'd have funny things to say. So I think if anything, comedy really brought me out of my shell
Oh
because
yeah,
I've
it
always been this
forces you out of
person.
your shell.
Exactly. Like I've always been this person. I know this sounds weird. I've always been this person to me. You know what I mean? Like I've always had these conversations in my mind, and to the few people that I let see that growing up. Like my mom would always say to me, like, "Are you this funny to people?" And I'm like, "People don't know I talk.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't
Like
speak around other
no
people.
one knows about this." Uh, so it really brought me out of my shell and really made me like being a people person can get you a long way in life. And
Yes.
I'm glad, and I feel like I've always had that skill, but I feel like comedy has like refined that skill and really helped me. If I can get a job interview, I can get that job. You know what I
Right.
mean? And before comedy, I would say 10 words in a job interview and not get the job. So it's really that's the positive for me. Negative, and this I think a lot of comics can relate to this. It definitely hurts your non-comedy relationships.
Yes.
Like
Yes, it
our
does.
so our friends don't
So glad somebody else
understand.
said it.
Our friends don't understand that we got to save our vacation days to go on comedy trips. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yep.
why haven't you visited me in 3 years? I'm like, I've got a thing. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Like you miss a
Yep.
lot. Like I'm
Yep.
an idiot. And I'm very lucky to be happily married for a second time. You know what I mean? I don't really want to mess this one up. Uh, but my idiot comedy brain, in 2019 booked a gig on her birthday and was excited that I booked this gig and went to go tell her. And as it's coming out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, this is her birthday.
Oh no.
So definitely, it definitely hurts I mean, she's a champ and, told me to go make the money I was going to go make. So,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but she, it definitely affects your non-comedy relationships. It
Yes.
kind of, not that
Yes.
it's a bad thing, because I love hanging out with comics, but I mean, it picks your friends for you.
It does. That's such a good way to put it. I love how you just phrased that. It picks your friends.
Hmm.
For sure. I the biggest thing that I personally have run into is guys who are like, "Oh, I think it's so cool that you're like a comedian and your drive is so inspiring and your hustle is so inspiring and I want to be with someone who like appreciates the drive and the hustle because they're usually arts related too, like an actor or a
Yeah,
writer
yeah,
or
yeah.
something." And then like 3, 4 weeks in, they're like, "Wait, you've got another thing?"
They can't
Like,
handle it. Yeah.
wait, but what about our show? We were gonna
We're
watch our show.
very needy,
Yeah, and
we're
like
very needy.
basically what ends up happening is they don't want to admit that they haven't been like going on auditions or writing anything or edit. And instead of being like, oh, they're very busy, I should also get busy too. They're like, no, it's your fault that you're so busy and you don't have any time.
I've seen that in relationships, like
Yep. Even though you're
on
like
both sides
honest
of
and
the ball.
upfront from day one, you're like, this is my passion. This is my, like, I will make time for you, but you
Yeah,
have to be willing to work with me. Oh, yeah, it's so cool. It's so inspiring. And then they're like,
yeah.
but I was going to watch Sons of Anarchy with you tonight or
Yeah,
whatever.
I saved it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's tough. It's very tough. Like, because I even, it's ingrained in your head. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 10 years in, and I don't want to hit every mic anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. I'm also, I turned 36 this year. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
Wow.
I don't go to the late mics. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, I'm old. I want my
Yeah.
sleep.
Like, can we talk for a second about how fast comedy ages you? Can we
Very
talk
much
about
so.
that?
I feel 50
Yes.
immediately.
Like I was telling somebody just today, I was like, I am 79 in all of my bones. Because he was
Hmm.
talking about going to some like music festival. And I'm like, that literally sounds like the worst
Terrible.
place on
So
earth.
bad. No, thank because we're over it. We've hung out at the club till 2 in the morning, not
Yes.
because we want to, because we have to.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes. I can't drink beer because every time I smell it, it smells like an open mic. It smells
that's
like an
fair.
open mic. I
Well,
don't like it.
I've had too many nights, trying to keep up with the headliner to prove I'm a good hang, and I got the acid reflux now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not for me. I can't do these nights. I get it. I have a 3-day
Yep.
hangover nowadays.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
it
I don't.
ages you so fast. I started comedy when I was in high school, when I was in 11th grade, and I swear to you, I was geriatric by like
Yeah.
18 or 19. Like I
No, I hear
swear.
you. I hear you.
Yep.
And I mean, I played baseball too and hockey, and like I'm decrepit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Like I
but
taught kickboxing, and that was less exhausting than what comedy has done to me over the
yeah,
years.
and that's the thing, is like you're still ingrained. Like, even though I don't go to all the mics that I should be going to, like, and see, I said that I should be going to, because you're ingrained with that
Yes.
guilt. You know what I mean? Like, that guilt sets in. Like, I haven't been to a mic in 3 days. What am I doing with my life? Did I quit?
Yep.
Did I quit
Yep.
comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The scariest thing that ever happened to me was at like my 12-year mark. I had to take a weekend off to move. I literally was moving, so I couldn't do anything for like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I ran into somebody at a show that Monday and they go, "Oh, you still do comedy?"
You're like,
And I had like an
just
existential
heartbroken.
crisis.
Just heartbroken.
Yes.
Like, do I?
I was
Is
like,
this my out? Do I take this out?
"Am I done? Did I
Yeah.
expire over the weekend?"
Does that forced retirement? What is going on
Oh
here?
God. Um, one of my questions for you was going to be what was your worst open mic experience, but now I know. Now you did the one where it's
That's
like
fair.
pick one, the one that you had to like build with your own bare hands, the one you got banned from when you actually got booked, but then your friend like tried to help you out and got you banned. Um, what do you think that you would be doing if you weren't doing comedy? If for whatever reason, back when we thought that COVID was forever, did you have any
Yeah.
thoughts in terms of
I did take this time to kind of think, like, maybe, if everything can go away so fast, it definitely made me gear myself more towards the future with multiple revenue streams. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like, I'm not trying, like, it's tough to make a living in comedy anyway. You know what I mean? But like, a
Yes.
lot of us early on are banking on it being that one day. You know what I mean? So I definitely took the quarantine and went back to school. I'm going back to school for like graphic design and video
That's
editing,
awesome.
and that's where I've the photography and things like that. So
Yeah, your photography is dope. The ones you took
thank
this
you.
week are so
I
good.
appreciate that, and it's really something I'm building on because I just want to be able to do anything. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's a good craft to have for comedy. You know what I mean? We have to promote ourselves all the time. I'm sure you're like me. I've got a website to maintain. I've
Yep.
got posts to make for social media. You know what I mean? So I've
What's your
always
website? You can say it here so people know where to find you.
yeah, please check it out. Give me some feedback onto it too. I redesigned it recently. DrewHarrisonComedy.com. Because there is another Drew Harrison. Who would thought was such an original name that someone would copy it. But no, there's a musician that is wildly, wildly popular and followed named Drew Harrison.
Oh,
So
interesting.
make sure you always search Drew Harrison stand up or comedy because it'll get you to me faster and not
That's
his
funny.
music. I'm trying to figure out a way to like coax him into like a social media beef, but I don't know the angle. I don't know the angle I'm
Too
gonna take
big to
yet.
notice my insults.
Right? Like, please notice me. But
What if you could pick like 10-year goals? If you're like, this is where I would like stand-up comedy to take me eventually, what would you say? Like, where would you like to be?
I think realistically, like, because we all have those crazy. When you start out, you're like, I'm gonna be one of the greats. But I think definitely 10 years in, um, I would like to be known in enough places where I could work 2 weekends out of the month. Like
Yeah.
have those opportunities to just be comfortable. Like not necessarily completely relying on comedy for revenue, like my living, but also it's helping. So I would love to be able to do my graphics and video editing and things like that, and then be gone 2 weekends out of the month doing comedy. I
Yeah.
would love that as a goal for sure.
That's really cool. Would you ever do like a special, do you think?
I definitely am trying to put together my first album right now.
Nice.
I've got some friends that I think are gonna provide the means, and so I'm getting that together now. So
That's dope.
an album special is in the works, and I hope to do it by the end of this year. But early 2022 will be fine too. So
Yeah.
that's a within this year, like this summer, of next summer. Getting that album done for sure.
That's awesome. What is something that you wish I feel like based on the stories you told me, you may have like 10 answers for this, which is totally fine. What is something you wish you had known earlier that you think would have really helped or changed kind of your direction?
That nothing's a big deal. You know what I
Ooh,
mean? Like everything, you think everything's the end or the start of your career. None of it matters. You know what I mean? Like
that's
there's
not at
definitely
all what I thought you were
spots
going to say. That's funny.
like because I would freak out. You know what I mean? Like all those stories like caused me so much anxiety and panic attacks and worry and sleepless nights. And I don't think it had any effects on what was going to happen next in my career at all. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
definitely big moments and opportunities where you don't want to mess it up because it definitely can set you back. But I mean, if anything we've learned, look at Southern Mama. You know what I mean? He got booed off the stage at the biggest comedy festival in the world,
Well, it's like,
and
first
he's
of all,
still working.
right. Like,
So
first of all, whoever booked somebody who does internet sketches for a live stand up comedy show, they were the ones who made the first initial bad decision.
yeah. So I mean, if anything, you're never untouchable and you're never, completely exiled. You know what I mean? So like count the wins as wins and count the losses as losses and just bounce back. You know what I mean? Like I did it anyway. I just would do it with a lot less worry
And you would
this time.
not tell a poop joke maybe at that comedy club.
I think I would still tell a poop joke because
Yeah,
screw him. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like,
I feel like it kind of had a positive impact on you a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Like I definitely learned, like I definitely started doing comedy at that changing of the old guard. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of those gatekeeper, angry road comics were kind of getting pushed out. And like as I was coming in, and he was the last of a dying breed. So I'd probably stare him in the eye and tell a poop joke this time because
And be like, that's all I brought, bitch.
Ryan, like, buckle up,
Like,
like,
I'd have written a better poop set.
yeah, for
I
sure.
definitely feel like that anger, that angry rage comic was very much a 90s thing for
Hmm.
sure. And I do feel like I know a lot of like middle-aged male comics who succeeded very greatly in the 90s, maybe even the late 80s with that kind of content. And then one day we just kind of nickelbacked them. One day we were just like, sorry, we don't like you
Nope.
anymore. Even though we've been telling you this is fabulous and dumping money on you and shows on you for years, now without warning, we're just going to tell you that's not what we want anymore and you need to
Yeah.
change.
Put those
Yeah.
puppets away.
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, the puppet comedy that came out in like 2005, 2006.
Huge.
That was a nightmare. That was a very cringe
Yeah.
phase, I feel like.
Minus that one puppet that's working right now, Randy. I can't
Randy,
think of his
yeah,
name.
Randy's cool.
Love that guy. Love
Randy's
that
cool.
guy. Yeah.
And I still like the dog from Comedy Central.
Yeah. What is it? Oh man, what is his name?
What was his
I can
name?
see him. I can see his face right now.
Yeah, the
angry dog.
Rottweiler from Comedy Central.
Yeah. He's
Um,
fantastic.
that's really, really cool. I really liked your answer. That's not at all what I thought you were gonna say.
Nice.
I thought you were gonna say something like, don't do a new set the second night of a show.
Yeah. Nah, I think like I definitely
but that
in
made
one of
you
those
stand
rare
out. It made you
that's
memorable.
yeah, in one of those rare instances I would every day. I mean, if I got to replay that over and over again, I would take the respect over that contest win all
Totally.
day.
Totally. And like while it made you look like an insane person, it made you stand out and it made people be like, oh, I'm scared of this guy. Like he's
Yeah, they were
throwing
like,
out all
"Oh,
the
he's moving
stops.
down here." Like, okay, it just got a little more competitive, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
was good.
Very cool. Those were pretty much all the questions that I had for you. So if you want, I would love to have you plug just anything you've got coming up or
Yeah.
more about like where we can find content of yours, if you have a YouTube channel or any projects going on.
Yeah, definitely check me out, please. Drew Harrison. I think you can do Drew Harrison comedy on YouTube as well, and it pops up. The channel name's just Drew Harrison, so I don't understand YouTube or how it works or how you
I'll
do
link
anything.
everything in the description. Anybody
Perfect.
who's
Thank
his
you so
website,
much.
his
Please
YouTube
subscribe. I'm trying to build up those numbers. I've got a experimental podcast hopefully coming out in the next few weeks where I just try to connect comics from different scenes through like stories about comedy. So I'm excited about that. Got a foot. It's almost football season. I'm a big football fan, as you can tell.
Oh, I didn't notice. I didn't notice all of the comedy paraphernalia.
This is my sports room.
Sports paraphernalia.
But it's called Nickel and Dime Football. It's also on my YouTube page and any podcasting stream that you enjoy. It's me and my childhood friend Sean Sudler, who is the Rain Man of football. He can tell you who was the sack leader in 1975. You know what I mean? Like that kind of guy. So he's my knowledge guy, and I just love football and I love talking about it. So please check out my football podcast. You can find all of this stuff on drewharrisoncomedy.com. I'm a big Instagrammer. Facebook's dead. I hate Facebook. Please follow me on Instagram at Laugh with Harrison, all one word. Yeah, that's it. I got some fun shows coming up. I'm gonna be at Zanies on the 22nd with my buddy Ben Bernard Ben Brainerd from Florida.
That's awesome.
He's got a huge YouTube show, The Table. He's blown up over quarantine. Me and Will Abels are going on a South Carolina run in September.
That's cool.
So super pumped about the things coming. So yeah, follow me and catch me out on the road.
Yeah, and then follow me on Instagram to see his photography because I'm the one who posts it all over the place.
If you need headshots,
Instagram.
let me know.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was really insightful.
Thank you for
and I
having
have
me.
like mad respect now that I know your journey because like I said, I love asking people how they got started because no two stories are the same.
No.
And none of them are not crazy. Nobody was
you don't ease into comedy, you know?
Right. You don't just wake up one day and it's like, I think I'll try comedy and then do an open mic and it just goes okay. Like that's fine. No, that's
you have setbacks immediately.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was great, Drew. It was great talking to you. I'll see you Monday.
All right.
Deuces.